What's the story, guys? Welcome to What Happens Here, Las Vegas' newest sports and entertainment program. We got another podcast happening! Thanks for joining us, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Great to see you here. How am I going to start? Let me start this off. This is today, when I started this podcast, I literally wanted to talk to people that had really interesting stories that were indicative to things that I loved in life. Today, this one is no exception to the rule. It's been a controversial subject for decades and decades and decades. An elusive cryptid that has been avoided detection until now. He's referred to as the Yeti, the skunk ape, the Chinese wild man. You may know him as Bigfoot. The native Indians call him Sasquatch. Today, we sit down with a man who spent more time in the field than any other living human being on Earth, studying, photographing, filming, and get to knowing this elusive beast. But don't take it from me. Check this out.
I've been able to see for the first time some complete segments of Todd Standing's filming of Sasquatches in another area where he's worked on, and with him explaining the background, which is so important. And I'm firmly convinced that he has filmed Sasquatches and that what he has portrayed in his documentary are indeed very close portraits, in fact, of the Sasquatch face.
Anybody who comes out in the field with me realizes in a very big hurry that this is the real deal. And that's it, period. Real Bigfoot, real deal, pretty exciting stuff. There is a living, breathing, undiscovered primate currently residing in the forests of North America, and I'm excited about its discovery. It's amazing.
Would you welcome to What Happens Here, Bigfoot Sasquatch researcher, the famous, the infamous Mr. Todd Standing. What's up, brother?
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. Great to have you.
I'm doing good.
Where are you filming from right now, brother?
In an undisclosed location. I do expeditions to go look for Bigfoot, and I always keep where I am. At this time of year, I don't want people to know when I'm out or when I'm back, because people try to damage my research and follow me around. And I have, famous PhDs, expeditioners that come from all over the world. And if I have some twit trying to follow me around, it damages the expedition. So I keep all that stuff quiet. So it's like a la Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah.
From somewhere in some unknown location. Who knows if I'm looking at Sasquatch habitat or if I'm at home or if I'm in wherever. So I keep that quiet for good reason.
So the secrecy of the whole thing comes part and parcel with studying this. Is that because you get a lot of disbelievers or people that want to come in and fuck things up for you, Todd? Like, what's the reason behind the secretiveness of these kind of expeditions?
Well, it was B, what you just said. People like to, I've been on an expedition. People found out it was a mistake that one of my colleagues mentioned I was going on an expedition. And I had a bunch of twits from another Bigfoot organization that were going to follow us around. And, it's because they know I'm having tremendous success. I have ridiculous, amazing, I've worked with the best in the world. I invite out the best in the world, PhDs, Survivor Man. I've taken him out multiple times and had him live interact with a Sasquatch. You saw my documentary. Jeff Meldrum's the best in the world. He's a PhD professor from Idaho State University. You just saw John Bitternagel, a PhD wildlife biologist. Took him out, had him live interact with an eyewitness of Sasquatch. So, I need privacy to keep this discovery moving forward. It's not really, what's sad about it though is I'll cooperate with anybody. These are jealous, difficult boneheads that I deal with. And what's funny is as an example, that first time they tried to come out and follow me around, I was with a US Army Ranger and this world famous athlete. We looked at these, out of shape guys, I'll say that, and was like, you're not following us. We're really going backcountry into the mountain. And the Ranger, this is a Ranger. This guy's trained to kill people, right? And he's like, I've come all the way from the United States to be here with Todd Standing, and you've come to screw up my expedition? He was like, he wanted to have a little chat with them out in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, there's no reason. We're all fit guys. We left them in the, in the dirt, and we do hardcore backcountry expeditions, and but even then, I have a trailer as base camp. People go through my trailer looking for footage, looking for evidence that I've gathered. So but it all comes about because the footage is real. I really do have incredible success with Sasquatch, and this is a discovery process. And with DNA footage, taking people out and showing them a Sasquatch, I don't know what the hell else I'm supposed to provide as evidence. The species is real. I mean, get over it. They're real.
So let's just go back a little bit, Todd. Like, do you prefer to be called a researcher? Do you prefer to be called an expert on the species? And can you just give us a little quick, a little bit of your background? Where did it start? Why did you start? And how it's got to where it is?
Just a researcher. There's no Sasquatch expert anywhere. We don't know. We mostly don't know anything about them. I'm having excellent success, but it's certainly not enough. So there's no expert. I just do the best I can to research them. I got into this to prove the species couldn't exist. I was a biology student at the University of Alberta, and I thought I could prove that there was no ecological niche for a primate species to survive in North America. And obviously I was wrong.
Yeah.
So, and my background that's really helped me out is I've always loved the wilderness and nature. And you do mixed martial arts. That's how I hooked up with you. I'm an original MMA guy. Like back in the very beginning, when Hoist Gracie and the Gracies started the UFC, I took my Shidoshi, who is Michael DiPasquale, who's been a judge. He was the teacher of my teacher. And we knew the first UFC was rigged. We knew that it was rigged because we knew our discipline, jiu-jitsu, was going to whoop everybody's ass. We were excited about it. But how that crosses over is just the calm and the serenity. And then even it keeps me alive in the wilderness, moving around like a lion. Like mixed martial arts teaches you confidence. It teaches you how to be strong. And that's why I don't have troubles with bears and mountain lions, because since I am confident and strong, that's what, Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu and wrestling taught me, is I move around like a predator, and now I'm out of danger because spending the amount of time I have in the backcountry, eventually you're going to get attacked and probably killed by a bear or a mountain lion, or, something's going to go wrong.
I like how calmly you say that, Todd. You say that so calmly.
Yeah. Well, they just look at me, and the confidence and calm and serenity that I've learned from studying martial arts really, it gets me tremendous success. And I think that the Sasquatch really appreciate that too, because they're the dominant species out there, and they respect strength. If you're weak, if you're scared, if you're flighty and you're twitchy, they're gonna stay away from you. So it's garnered a huge part of what makes me tremendously successful.
So when you go out into the field, what's the amount of time that you'll spend out there alone when you're researching these guys?
I try not to, I don't really need to go alone so much anymore. It's pretty, maybe once or twice a year, I'll spend, let's say 7 days alone. Well, I had to do it last year because I was under a lot of pressure to get new evidence and new footage. And so I did have to spend 2 7-day trips alone. And and it worked. I got some decent new footage that keeps this discovery moving forward. But generally, I take people out with me that are highly skilled, highly trained, or even possibly trained by me. I have people that have been coming out on expedition with me for 4 years in a row, and they have good skill sets, and I work as a cooperation, and that makes me move forward and be much more successful. Cooperation is very powerful.
So the difference between you and a lot of these other researchers is you take out professionals from the field, anthropologists, people, PhDs, people that are familiar with dermal ridging from primates. Can you answer me this question? There is so many experts claiming and stating that this is a real species. Why is it still such a controversial subject where people think that it's a joke?
Well, because there are people that make a joke out of it, and there are people that have been frauds and hoaxers, and I get put into that category. But I appreciate there's a lot of excellent researchers out there doing fantastic work, and I help them. I cooperate with people as much as I can. You'll find that the haters started hating me. I was willing to cooperate with everybody right from the beginning. I don't want to cooperation is powerful, and but people seem to want to compete. There's no competition going on there. There's no, if you had a best Bigfoot researcher competition, that wouldn't show up. I don't ever claim to be. I mean, even that's just an arrogant thing to say, I'm the best. Like, no, I don't think that. I'm different, and I have my own style potentially, but I'll even change that. I just want to do whatever it takes to make this discovery happen and be moral about it, and not go to war with this peaceful primate species, which would be foolish, because you know what I tell people now, these hunters and these dumbasses that want to go shoot them, I'll tell you, it's like putting a 5-year-old in the ring with John Jones. You're not going to win. You have no hope. And I'm using that example to really get people, like, you go out there with a gun, people think human beings are so tough and they're so good with a gun. You take on a giant primate species like this, you're going into their home. They've lived there for tens of thousands of years. They know every rock and nook and cranny, and they move together as a cooperation. They're fast and powerful. They hunt every single day. They never leave the wilderness. They know what the squirrels are doing. They know how the wind's going to blow. They're going to annihilate you. Like, it's pathetic to think that these hunters can go in there and shoot one. As much as I know about them, as much skill as I have in the wilderness, if I would ever attempt that, I would die. I would never come back. You go to war with this species, and there's so many levels above us. Like the old Indians, the greatest trackers that ever lived, the old Apaches, and even the Cree elders here in North and Canada that teach me, they're the greatest trackers that ever lived. They would never mess with the Sasquatch. They'll tell you the moment you decide to go take on a Sasquatch. This is universal through Native Americans and First Native people. They'll tell you, you're going to take your last breath. You won't hold a candle to these guys. They'll throw boulders that are 150 pounds accurately over 200 yards from an uphill position. They'll have you looking left, and one will kill you from the right. You don't verse this species. It's totally. The more I learn about them, about how amazing they are and how easily they survive in these harsh environments, it's absolutely infinitely preposterous to think that a human being is going to go. I mean, even guns don't fire more than, like, you get snipers that shoot at 1,500 yards is an incredible shot. You're never going to get within 50. They're going to see you miles away, and to evade a Sasquatch, you're going to have to evade the squirrels, the birds, the deer, everything, every sound, every smell you make. The Sasquatch interpret that because they're the apex species out there. And I try to express that to people. You're dealing with the greatest wilderness expert of all time. The old Americans that wanted Geronimo dead, the good hunting and tracking Americans that were in the old armies, it was so pathetic when they were trying to hunt Geronimo. Geronimo had no trouble. In fact, the armies that were hunting him, he was stealing their guns and their food, and he was glad they were hunting him because he was using them to survive. Right. That's how pathetic it was. And Geronimo would tell you, I could never take on a Sasquatch. So, you understand the levels we're dealing with here. It's ridiculous.
I mean, when you say that you're not the best, but you probably have some of the most controversial yet amazing footage. What is the difference, Todd, that gives you the opportunity to be able to get so close to these creatures that, as you said, will kill you as quick as looking at you? What is the difference between you and everybody else in the world that's been trying to find them? Do they know you? Do they sense you? Are you part of their tribe? Like, can you explain that to me?
Yeah, the difference is I work with the best primatologists in the world. I'm mentored by them. I work with the best trackers. The Northern Cree Indians here in Alberta are my teachers. I use science from Jeff Meldrum and John Bitternagel. I have Survivor Man himself who mentored and trained me. So the difference is I have amazing teachers that give me little tidbits of information, and I'm out there. I am boots on the ground, and what I do is extremely dangerous. Right. I don't recommend anybody do this stuff. You will get there are big predators out there, and every day, I tell people, every day a mountain lion or a bear will pick up our scent, get our wind gauge, and they will decide whether to hunt and come and kill us or not. Right. We're in their home, in their habitat, and I adhere to and follow rules. Even like, does it dumbfound you that we always known there's the legends of these incredible trackers. How come they've never used trackers for search and rescue? You want to hear me swear? How fucking stupid is that? Yeah, no, these are the best trackers in the world. And even here, like, people go missing in Canada, and they have these Indians that are trackers that'll find them no problem. And the search and rescue people that have all the money and get all the funding go, well, they're going to have to take our course. They're going to have to do grid searching. And the native guy looks at him and goes, can I just go find them? Because he will. Yeah. and they refuse to do that. And that's people that don't go and learn from those natives. Like my teacher, who was the most incredible wilderness expert, I couldn't believe the stuff. He was a legend. And other people would look at him and go, he looks like a dirty old Indian. His teeth are all funny, and he's got a funny face, and he's not handsome, and he's not muscular. That dude will his endurance and his ability to survive in the most extreme conditions was just unreal, unheard of. And I was grateful and honored that he took me on as a teacher. So it's looking past maybe outer appearances and just opening your mind to even what Jeff Meldrum has taught me. Jeff Meldrum doesn't know. Jeff Meldrum is that PhD in my documentary. He's probably the most famous Sasquatch researcher in the world, and rightly so. He's an absolutely wonderful man, a complete gentleman. He has no idea all the amazing things that he's taught me. I take him out on an expedition, and I keep him safe, and I guide him, and I showed him a Sasquatch in 3 days. But and he, everybody thinks, well, you did that for him. You did. No, Jeff taught me so much. It was just amazing. What a brilliant, amazing man. I mean, I would go home and I would secretly at night take notes about the things that Jeff was teaching me. Right. And I still have them. And it's because I take advantage of everything and I move every millimeter, and I'm committed to. Even I knew in the beginning I was risking my life. There were days where I laid down to die. I quit. I couldn't do it. I've come so close to not surviving so many times, and I don't think most people are willing to make that risk, and I am.
Well, see, there's a lot of people that maybe haven't seen your documentary that don't know a little bit. Can we go to the clip, the documentary trailer? Can we just go to that clip real quick? Because I just want everyone to check this out real quick. This is a trailer from Todd Standing's first documentary about discovering this creature, and I just want you guys just to take a look at this real quick and just tell me how you feel. Roll the clip, brother.
With my last bit of battery power in my camera, I was able to film these incredible images in full HD at 50 times optical zoom.
Now, for any of you that have seen that documentary, the last part of that clip there, you can hear Todd terrifyingly screaming, "Get out of here, get out of here." This is a part of the documentary where he's surrounded by, I believe it was 4 or 5 large male Bigfoots, to the extent where they were throwing boulders and large trees at him. Todd, you can really hear the terror in your voice. Can you just talk about that moment? Because that even gives me chills listening to that.
Yeah, I block it out of my head when I hear it.
Wow, like I can hear it in your voice, man.
Thinking about that day, because it's one bad day. Honestly, they weren't trying. It was me being ignorant. They were trying to get me back into the wilderness to do a spiritual animal ritual that I wanted, and they weren't able to communicate with that to me properly. When you're dealing with big giant primates that are, their play fighting would tear a human being limb from limb. They're incredible, they're twice the size of gorillas and twice as strong. They were tearing trees out of the ground that day, but they weren't harming me, and they were just, there was a purpose for what they were doing. And later on, I learned what that purpose was. But also too, you have to understand, I'd been, that was the end of my expedition. I was sleeping about 2 hours a day. I was not eating. I stopped eating for about 4 days, hiking through the mountains, high altitude, you know, and being alone for all that time. I think I was probably on my 6th day all by myself in the wilderness and dealing with Sasquatch nightly.
Wow.
So 3 days in, I got footage, and then for 3 days out, they were tormenting me every day and all the time. And that was just like, especially what really ticked me off was I was basically about half a mile from the road where my somebody's going to come pick me up the next day. And it's like they were pushing me back into the bush. They never did that before. They've never pushed me in. They always push me out. So, and that's why, you know, I was screaming, what do you want from me? Like, what do you expect me to do? Why are you pushing me back into the wilderness? You're always pushing me out. And, but they had a purpose, and it's just really, to me, it's just an ignorant man that didn't understand what these brilliant beings were trying to educate me on. And, yeah. And so, you know, and a lot of people think, you know, go out in the wilderness and spend 6 days and nights all by yourself, you know, knowing that there are bears and all the dangerous stuff that are out in the wilderness. You can't have a deep sleep because you'll die. You'll wake up with something eating you. So, you know, it's tough to survive out there. Just normal people are never going to get it. And the only way I could teach somebody is if I took somebody and threw them up on a mountain for 3 days, is just stay here and I'll come back and get you in 3 days. Survival, man, I tell you, after the second day, you start to get a little, like, it's silent. There's nothing out there. There's no, you can hear a squirrel fart. I mean, it's dead silent. Every sound means something. And you never know if that scratching over there is, you know, a bear approaching you, or a gopher, or a marmot, or, you know, a rabbit comes hopping along and makes a scratch sound. Is that a mountain lion? Yeah. Or is that a rabbit around the corner? You know what I mean? And you better damn well pay attention, because 95% of the time it is a rabbit or a marmot or something, a pika doing something stupid. But that 5% of the time it is going to be a predator. And there's so much going on when you're by yourself and not eating. I have to stop eating, because when I'm in that ghillie suit mode to sneak up on the Sasquatch, I can't be defecating and urinating. You can't. So when you put your body through that kind of torment, you're not sleeping, you're grinding up mountains, hiking, you're fighting to stay awake, and then you're not eating as well, all by yourself. It really it taxes your psyche. And that's why Rangers and Navy SEALs do that brutal training. That training, a good Ranger or a good Navy SEAL, that's bare minimum shit. That's the minimum suffering you need to know. You need to know that you're going to get yourself through, because in real life, you'll suffer till you die. You won't make it back at times. Yeah. So it's appropriate training. And if I was training people for doing what I do, they would do Navy SEAL twice. You know, like, you gotta bleed. You gotta know you're going to get through this. You have to have your will has to be unbreakable. You have to be a damn machine in ways that normal people will never understand. I'm shaking. I'm even cold. I was hypothermic. And, you know, my body's not able, when you stop eating, you can't generate heat. I'm losing weight. My body's consuming its own muscle, which is very toxifying, not sleeping, and, you know, and cold. You know, you're not rational. I went to go put when I was done with that expedition, I went to try to put a key in a truck, and I couldn't get it in. I was like, what's the matter with me? My hand was just shaking, and it didn't compute in my head. Why is my hand shaking so bad? Oh, it's because you're blue, dummy. And it wasn't even that it was cold. It just, if you lose a half a degree of body temperature every day for 7 days, by the end of it, you're blue, and it came on so slowly that you didn't even notice. So I could go on all day about the suffering, and I was bleeding. I was damaged. I did have a wound, you know. So my boot was all full of blood and caked up, and, you know, it was, it's really hard. And but I hate listening to that thing. I've learned to actually just block it out of my head and let people listen to that. I know it's entertaining for the movie people and stuff, but I hate that day, and I put it behind me.
Well, one thing that day shows, Todd, is how huge your big Canadian balls are, for one. And the second thing that it shows is that why would someone put themselves through all this pain, suffering, and torture if they were just trying to make a hoax or trying to make some money off something. It doesn't make sense. Why? I mean, you've been doing this a long time. How long have you been doing this, Todd? How long have you been doing this? How long's Bigfoot been, the research been part of your life?
2005
Okay.
was when I really, yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah. Well, see, listen, guys, people don't study something and make it part of their life for that long if they don't believe that everything they're doing is for a purpose. Now, initially, Todd's purpose was to discover that this species was alive, but also was to protect the species. Now, Todd, can you explain a little bit about the problems that you had with the Canadian wildlife in trying to make the Sasquatch a protected species so no one can fucking kill it? That didn't go down too well either, right?
Well, in the beginning, I was concerned about people hunting them. Now, like I said, you can't go ahead and try to hunt them. You're a dumbass. You're going to die. No one's ever going to see your body again. You'll disappear. So go ahead and give it a shot. If you're going to give that a shot, please contact me and I'll convince you the 100 reasons why not to. And anybody with common sense will sit down and get that. But I wanted them more acknowledged, because when we dam up the salmon from going upriver, they lose a food source. When we move into a territory and log it all and then put houses in, they lose land, and loss of habitat equals loss of life. And they're clearly being pushed back. So that was always one of my primary things. And today it still is. So, but the Canadian government originally was very good with me. They told me, bring back a significant piece of a recently deceased body and we'll give you that acknowledgement and protection of the species. We'll put them on the endangered species list. In the United States, though, they already have protection in Skamania, Washington. It's a $50,000 fine to kill a Sasquatch. And in a place called Whatcom, it's completely illegal to kill a Sasquatch. So Washington State has done an amazing, incredible job. And, so I'm very proud of that. And I want protection in the U.S. too. I worked towards a California lawsuit I'm going to sue Fish and Wildlife in Canada and the United States for not recognizing this species. When I go to court and I prove the species is real, and if they are a wildlife species, and it's Fish and Wildlife's job to protect all the indigenous species. And if they're not doing their job, they're derelict in their duty. So that's what the newest things. So you're talking about the species protection was in 2008 approximately. The newest court cases are to sue Fish and Wildlife with the goal of, not money. The goal is, you jerks come out with me for 3 months and I'll prove a Sasquatch is real. So we do a 3-month ecological survey where I will prove Sasquatch is real to Fish and Wildlife officers. That's all I ever wanted. Like, forget about all the other drama and crap. When a man says, all I want to do is show Fish and Wildlife this species is real, I take people out and show them a Sasquatch. I did it with Jeff Meldrum. I did it with Survivor Man. I've done it with dozens of other people. And I did that in 7 days. If I did a real ecological survey with wildlife officers, this discovery would be over. You must understand, that's the first place I ever went in 2006 before I ever did media. I went to Fish and Wildlife and said, you see this video footage? Don't take my word for it. Come out with me and I will show you a Sasquatch. And they say no. So where do you go from there?
It's got to be such a frustrating business to be in when you know that something's true. People know that it's true worldwide, but you can't get people to believe it, even though you've got this incredible, amazing footage. Now, with that footage that you have, it's probably one of the only HD color close-up sightings of a Sasquatch that's not the normal way that you see videos of Sasquatch. In the background, a little blurry, people that are shaking it around. You actually got some clear footage of even better than the Patterson-Gimlin footage. Can we just roll that Patterson-Gimlin footage real quick? We can talk in the background here, Todd, so you can let us know what you think. Now, this is obviously going back 30, 40 years. Is this very similar to what... 1967. Now, is this similar to what you see when you're out on the field? This one seems to be out in the open, and she seems to be walking around quite freely. Is this very similar to what you see when you're out there?
Exactly. That's a real Sasquatch. That's a real Sasquatch. There's no way those guys faked it. I think the evidence of this film is the greatest piece of evidence of Sasquatch, because the substrate that she's walking on left beautiful tracks that showed, most importantly, a mid-tarsal joint in the foot, which we didn't even know existed in nature until somebody discovered it in chimpanzees in the 80s. So how did a couple of cowboys, first of all, this and everything, I actually, just a few years ago on expedition, a female Sasquatch came down to a structure where we were gifting them apples, took a bite out of an apple, and then I started to track her up a hill. And I I actually, for the first time in my life, legitimately, I took my glasses off and rubbed my eyes, because what I saw was the Patterson footage, almost identical. I saw a female Sasquatch walk from left to right. She was moaning. She was going. She was ticked off that I was following her tracks. She knows I'm a tracker. She knows that I was going to follow her trackway back up and find her. So she said, "Screw it, I'm going to come out and I'm going to be ticked off at you." And she was saying, "Stop following my tracks." But it literally, as she walked past the first time, I literally went like this. I just rubbed my eyes and I looked at the expeditioner I was with. I go, "That's the Patterson footage. We just saw the exact female, the exact breasts, the exact size." I actually wanted to, I measured her tracks and I wanted to compare them to the precise size of the tracks from that 1967 footage shot in Northern California. Because I betcha she was identical. Her foot would match. So, and that was in Northern Alberta, for God's sake. So and I met Bob Gimlin, interviewed him, and there is a level of expertise I have with interviewing people, talking about the wilderness. Bob Gimlin, it's called the Patterson-Gimlin footage. I never met Patterson because he died long before I ever got into this. But I met Bob Gimlin. He's a hero. He's a wonderful, honest, just one of these Americans that just reeks of integrity and honor. Like, he's such a wonderful man. He would never lie or deceive. That's a real Sasquatch. And when he met me, he saw people were trying to turn him against me because it's all this conniving and this Bigfoot community crap. He saw my footage and he looked at it and he came up to me and he asked me if he could stand on the table. I was at a seminar for Sasquatch. He stood up on the table and said, "I've seen a Sasquatch and this footage is a Sasquatch. That's what they look like and nobody's going to tell me otherwise." And then he said, "Todd, I want you to know something. Everybody's trying to turn me against you, trying to make me hate on you and say your stuff isn't real." He goes, "You know what, Todd? You were me 30 years ago." He said, "Today they gave me this honorary medal for a lifetime achievement for Bigfoot." He said, "In 20 years, they're going to give you one. And all you're going to be kissing his ass because I was hated in the beginning. And eventually you realize the truth. And that's what's going to happen to this man." And he shook my hand. And then I had dinner with him. And, so I feel like I'm 99.9% convinced that footage is absolutely authentic. Even there's just no way you could fake that. And the fact that it came with tracks, you can't understand how hard it is to get a Sasquatch to walk on substrate that's not too soft, not too hard, not too wet, not too dry, that leaves good tracks. She did that female. Yeah. And I've never been able to get a video that corresponds with tracks. So
right. Yeah.
That's why that evidence is so great.
Do you think that, obviously the Sasquatch is a breed of animal / cryptid / gigantopithecus / sentient being? Do you think that was the same female Sasquatch from that Patterson footage, or how long do these things live? How long do you think they live for? Are they, is it just like the normal age of a gorilla or a human? What do you think their age limit?
Yeah, well, they live in the wilderness, so that it's only the strong survive. You can't. Winters are harsh where I live, so, and dentition, when your teeth rot out, how do you continue on? They don't have dentists, so I base that around 40, 50 at the oldest, I would think, because again, life is so hard, and it would be different maybe in Texas than it would up here in Canada, because it's without the harsh winters are brutal, man.
Yeah,
winter will kick your ass. We get -40 out here. It wears on you. Like, my native teacher, he survived out in winters a lot, and it showed on his face. Like, he was weathered and it was harsh. So it's going to be different in different climates, but I would never say even, like 60 years old would really be pushing it. There are people that say preposterous things, they live 200 years and stuff like that, but that's not good science. And those theories just don't hold any kind of water. They're not some mythical, ghost thing. And they're a hominid species. The DNA that I've gathered shows that they're a more advanced hominid than us, and that so actually makes sense.
They're more advanced human than primate.
Yeah, well, they're a more advanced hominid than us. They're further down the hominid chain. And when you think about it, if I took Survivor Man, one of the greatest survival experts in the whole world, and I threw him out in the middle of the harshest environments and said, "Don't use technology and survive for 5 years. It's probably going to be dead in 2 months. 3 months, 5 months, he's not going to live." If you take a Sasquatch and make that same thing, you're going to come back in 5 years and he's going to be fat. He's going to be calm and fat, got his feet up, head behind, you know what I mean? no problem. So who is the better survivalist? Who is the more advanced, more evolved species? If you take our technology away from us, we're nothing.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking of it, actually.
We're the most advanced, technologically advanced species by far, but they're the most advanced natural nature equilibrium species. They live and die based on survival of the fittest, and that makes them strong, dude. We don't have survival of the fittest anymore. If you know about domestication syndrome, we've been horrifically domesticated. We're fatter, lazier, dumber. That's what happens when you domesticate. And the Sasquatch have none of that. If you're not strong, if you don't kick ass, if you can't make it through the first winter, when you're born in the spring out here, because you need to fatten up and get tough, because when winter comes, if you are not extremely tough, you will not survive the 4 months of harsh, brutal, the cold, the lack of food, the brutalities that winter brings. And that makes for a strong, intelligent, powerful species, and we are not that anymore. I make no apologies for it.
Well, I mean, if anyone's ever been to Canada in the wintertime, then you'll know exactly what Todd is talking about. So for these species to live primarily in North America, Canada, Washington, I mean, as far even in California, even all the way over to Australia, we have a species called the Yowie, which is very, very similar to the Sasquatch. Probably just just another realm of who they are.
Subspecies.
Another subspecies of the Sasquatch, which is why the day watchers look a little bit different to the big guys like Jake and the big black guy that you filmed. So do you think that there's different, there's different races of humans? Do you think there's maybe different races of Sasquatch as well? If race is the white,
that way with the Yowie and the Yeti.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Yowie's real. I met with, I spoke with some Australian Aboriginals from the Blue Mountains called the Darnum Junk Tribe. The Yowie's real. If you don't shut your mouth and listen to the best indigenous experts in the world, the Aboriginals that have been there for who knows how long,
millions of years.
If you don't, they're the best trackers. They're incredibly, and they don't think the Yowie is real. They've named it. They know it's real. They tell you what happens when a Yowie comes around. They've asked me. I had an elder asked me to come down and that he needed my help with the Yowie and stuff. And, I was really honored to have him say that to me. But in truth, switching terrains and going into a new ecosystem, I'm a tracker, but it takes so much to learn about all the new animals and species and the weather patterns. And it's so much stuff. I think it was spiritually, it was an enormous compliment to me for him to say that I could come down there and make a difference and do something. But when you put it, there's definitely going to be the Yowie, the Yeti, the Yeren. There's even in Africa they have a Sasquatch. It's extremely impressive how many subspecies there are, and clearly, like the Yeti and the Yowie are going to be very, very different in race, different size. The Yowie, and even biologically, when it's hotter, there's more of the species, but they're smaller. And that's what it shows with the Yowie. There's more of them, they're smaller. And when a species becomes smaller and more prevalent, they become more aggressive. And that's what the Yowie is by all accounts of it. So even what we know about biology adds up brilliantly. So when components are adding up, when the little bits of evidence are adding up and they all point in the exact same direction, it points to a fact, it points to a truth. And there's so much evidence, you really have to be, with the dermal ridges, the DNA, the eyewitness accountings, and you got a man like me out there saying, don't take my word for it. I don't care who you are. I take people out and I show you a Sasquatch. What the hell else? We've already accepted species based on DNA. Why don't we do that with Sasquatch? We have DNA. So it's very bothersome to me.
So as far as a lot of people that talk about the Sasquatch, when they say that they know that he or her is around, there's a distinctive smell. I haven't really heard you talk about the smell too much, Todd. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
No. When there's a smell, that means they're ticked off at you. Gorillas, when they get angry, they'll literally, drops of urine will be excreted from their pores, and the Sasquatch do the same. There's two different kinds of smells. There's the acute, like a sweeter smell when the Sasquatch is really upset with you right now. And then there's that older, sour kind of smell that's when they've been stinky for a long time, and it's probably they're running around looking for females or for mates. But I don't have much experience with that because they're not really ticked off at me very much. The few times I've had that smell, it was a very bad situation. It was time for me to go. When a Sasquatch is angry at you to the point where he's projecting the odor, his pores are open and he's hostile, you could die. They're giant primates. They'll rip you limb from limb. They'll tear you apart. So, and you must understand things like people that I've known that have had encounters like that. The things that they understand that they live in, that are first nature to them, like the wind gauge. A guy calls me and says, well, I smelled the Sasquatch. Yeah, he was downwind. He purposely got to that position so you could smell him. And he was letting you know. It's like a punch in the face. It's like, hey, I'm here. Smell me. Get it? I'm upset. So it's them, and they're trying to communicate things with us. And so for me, those are gauges as to what has been transpiring and what they're trying to communicate with us. And thankfully, I'd say honestly, 95% of the time I have encounters with Sasquatch. No smell at all. Bears don't smell. Mountain lions don't smell. Predators don't smell. If they ran around stinking all the time, it would be a huge disadvantage for them. And they're hygienic and clean. So I've had Sasquatch put hands on me and not have any smells. That day when there were 4 Sasquatch running around, when I was screaming, panicking like that, there was no smell at all. They were owning that situation, and they weren't afraid of me. They weren't angry. They were purposely trying to do something with me and teach me something. And, so the smell wasn't the case at all. And I know the smell. It's very gorilla-like.
Yeah. Oh, so this is the question that comes to mind. Like, a lot of people are going to debate this and say, look, if this is a animal, why would he bother smelling to let you know he's pissed off? Why wouldn't he just come and kill you right then and there? Or is there some kind of I don't want to say relationship between human and Sasquatch, or is there some kind of understanding maybe between us species? I'm not sure.
Well, the problem is the Sasquatch don't realize how stupid and how deceitful we are. And I say that because one Sasquatch, if I could sit down with a Sasquatch and talk to him, he'd say to me, well, I showed myself to 3 people this year. They must know we're real. And then I'd have to tell the Sasquatch, actually, we lie to each other so much. We're so deceitful amongst ourselves that when someone sees you and other people, they tell other people, they don't believe him. And he's going to scratch his head and go, why do you lie to each other? Because they're not like that. So and then a Sasquatch will leave signs and markings for people, and the people will ignore it and think, oh, those broken trees and those structures, oh, that's just natural. And the Sasquatch frown and go, that's clearly, I bent that tree around, twisted it, shoved another tree into it. You'd have to be a complete goddamn moron to think that happened naturally. And yet we do. So I don't think the Sasquatch realize how ignorant we are, how distrustful, how dishonest we are. And that's a real problem in building a relationship amongst our species, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that as time goes on and there's more and more sightings, there's more and more footage being captured, do you think people are starting to believe a little bit more now that, hang on a second, this thing might be actually true?
Well, the evidence, anybody that looks into the evidence, it's over. I mean, I'm not in the basement cooking up DNA. And actually, the DNA the question should be over, because what people will say is I'm mixing chimpanzee and human DNA. And if you look at the scale, so if you watch my hand, so it goes orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, human being, and you know where Sasquatch is? Over here. So I can't be mixing chimpanzee DNA with human DNA, because I would get something in between. It's something else that can't be mixed. So if I'm mixing up DNA in a crock pot, which is preposterous and stupid to even think that, I'm not fooling geneticists, I wouldn't be able to I'd have to actually create a new species genetic sequence, and then it doesn't make any sense. It's a new species, Yeah. So the DNA should be, if I was in a court of law and I had, if they ever let me into court, and the problem is the courts are so conservative and ridiculous. I couldn't get into trial because I needed to have precedents. I needed to show the judge there was other reasons for him to allow this to go to trial. So I've never gotten into trial, because if I did, Fish and Wildlife, they told me, we'll spend a decade making sure this never goes to trial. We'll fight you, because they know if I went to trial, I would annihilate them with evidence. I could have 1,000 of the most incredible men and women show up and testify they've eyewitnessed it. I could have geneticists, I could have the best fingerprint experts in the world show up and testify. This is unhoaxable, factual DNA. These dermal ridges are from a real indigenous living creature that can't be hoaxed. When you have the best of every piece of evidence, How could you still sit back and it's laughable? And
Yeah.
and that's again what the problem with Sasquatch is how could you not know us?
Yeah.
Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people have seen us, and still you deny our existence.
Well, I
So
think that's because the Sasquatches are the experts in social distancing. They have been for decades and decades and decades now. So now they're just thinking,
Yeah,
fuck,
yeah.
if these people don't understand what's going on here, then fuck it. We're just going to step back. Now, listen, your documentary
Right.
was the highest selling documentary on Netflix, which is one of the top platforms when it comes to media, when it comes to movies, when it comes
Yes.
to TV shows. Todd, I hear a rumor. Is there a second movie coming out?
yeah, well, the problem is I just I'm having some just personal family issues that have slowed down part 2, but there's part 2, part 3, part 4. I'm never going away. There's, you know, I'll be doing these documentaries for the rest of my life, and I'm the one that makes them. I direct them, produce them, write them, edit them, put the
Yep.
sound in, do the After
Yep.
Effects, then turn it in.
Yep.
And there's not, you know, there's not really profit in it because it's so much work, it costs so much time and money, and then the distribution companies, you know, it's not a business where you can viably make money or profit. So, but it's something that I'm very passionate about, because now there are people out there that have seen Sasquatch and get ridiculed for it, and they can watch my documentary and they can damn well know that Survivor Man believes you, Jeff Meldrum, PhD, believes you, Todd Standing believes you. I get calls and emails every day from people saying, I saw a Sasquatch, it looked just like yours, I showed my family, and now they can kiss my ass. They're not mocking me anymore because it's out there. And there's also people that want to do research. They can learn from that film about tree breaks and structures and how to gift them and tracking. And so if I don't make the discovery, it sure would be nice if somebody else would, because there is no ego with the people that I work with. We just want the discovery done. That's all we ever wanted. It's just proof and discovery to happen. So the Discovering Bigfoot movie is out there to help facilitate the discovery process of Sasquatch moving forward. And that's why there will be part 2 and part 3 and the YouTube channels. And I'll continue to take people on expeditions and do TV shows because I want this discovery done. I want it done where there's like universities with primatologists not going to Africa. They can stay right here in North America, study this magnificent species. And even in wilderness is the preservation of the world. There's perfect equilibrium there. And we're living like a virus right now where we consume and destroy and we take too much and we don't give back.
Yeah.
And the Sasquatch can help the environment, help you learn about even their spiritual connection to nature that we've lost so much. That's what a lot of the expeditioners that I take out really come out for. And you get it and you learn about it, and it frees you because we have a wildness in us, and there's no outlet. You get people like the Diaz brothers. Those kids are wild, and yet they're taking marijuana, and they're some of the greatest fighters in the world. The problem with those kids is they're wild, and they want to be wild, and they live in a cement, jungle,
Yeah.
and I feel bad because those boys, if when they were young, I could have mentored them and showed them about the wilderness and let them be free, they would have been so perfect and amazing. But no, they use mixed martial arts. They become incredible, famous fighters, and they try to use their wilderness as best they can. But look at the Diaz brothers when you try to interview them. I don't want to do this goddamn interview. I just want to go fight because they're wild. And those are great people. They're just, and now we give all these medications for people and antidepressants because, hey, if you got wildness in you, that's wrong. We need to subdue that. We need to domesticate your ass. And it's bad because we can't domesticate zebras. You can't domesticate moose. Most wild animals can never be domesticated because they're wild. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
And we're doing that with people, and it's horrible. It breaks my heart. So the wilderness and the Sasquatch are my teachers, and they have set me free to learn more about myself and to be connected spiritually and emotionally and physically in ways that civilization just can't do.
Well, see, there you go. Look, everybody has their opinion, guys. I mean, you can look at this man, you can look at his work, you can say this guy's a crackpot or this guy's really onto something here. But what you got to do is you got to put it down to the facts. This man's been doing this since 2005, every day of his life. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it for fame. He's not doing it for anything else but to prove the existence of these species. Even though he has proved it, people still don't want to believe. What do you want to believe to see it? You want to see a dead body of a Sasquatch? Personally, I don't. I believe in what I see. I've been studying this and looking at this for a long, long time, and I kind of weigh up the evidence. There is too many people around the world. There is too many sightings. There is too much physical evidence. There may not be a Sasquatch body, but there's a lot of species in the world that you'll never find the dead body of a certain fish or a certain bird, because that's just the way that nature is. I think that this is a time coming up where, there's a lot more things going on with the world and the universe, and that has been in the last decade or so. There's being so many more things that are coming out that people didn't believe that we're starting to believe. You've got the US government coming out now stating that they have been in contact with alien life forms for many, many years now. These things are all starting to happen. It's a change of the world. It's a change of the universe. Todd, I just want to say to you, man, I think it's really awesome what you're doing. I think the fact that you're going out and doing this out of your heart, out of what you believe, is something that people should take into note. Stop fucking saying straight away, it's not true, it's not bullshit. Don't say it's not true and it's not bullshit until you've studied it and looked at it. And then if you still don't believe it, and fucking go out with this man for 3 or 4 days, and then we'll see if you believe it then. When's the next expedition going to be? Because I want to take myself and my engineer Travis with his little handheld to see if we can get some evidence with you, Todd.
Oh.
When can we come out there with you, brother? Because I'm serious, man. We would love to come out.
Expeditions are now. I'm 1 week in, 1 week out on expeditions until the snow flies. I'm going to take a couple months off December and January, and then I'm going to start doing expeditions in the United States. Alabama, Washington, Florida is on my hit list. So when there's deep snow in Canada and you got to leave species alone, I'm going to go to the southern United States. And so expeditions are just continuously ongoing. I'm going to keep fighting for this discovery. COVID has done that, where most of my expeditioners are from the United States, and now they can't come to Canada, but Canadians can go to the US. So I just came back from Alabama. I was in New York State, and we had a Sasquatch come within 40 yards of us. So, it's amazing. And the Adirondack Mountains in the Empire State, I couldn't believe it. So there's so much to be done here, and I'm garnering incredible success. It's absolutely miraculous. But it's the people. It's the cooperation. It's the people that. I would go to a spot where natives have been seeing Indians and talking, or have been seeing Sasquatch for decades, and I would go stand on their shoulders. So, the secret of my success is just go be nice to people and cooperate and find like-minded individuals and go work with them, stand on their shoulders and teach them what you can. And, as a cooperation, we're powerful. If we fight against each other, it's weak and pathetic, and that's why I get success. There's no secret to it. I'm just nice, and there's nothing special about me. Anybody can do what I do. I just work hard and be determined, get passionate about something, and go fight for it, and know you can do it. So that's it. I'm a human being. I don't even like being called a Canadian. I'm just a person. My home is North America. I love the whole Pacific Northwest. From Oregon, California, Washington State, British Columbia, Alberta, Montana, all those states and provinces. That's my home base. I know those animals. I know those lands really, really well. And borders and governments, they don't represent me. I'm free, and that's my home terrain. Is that Pacific Northwest stuff where I'm really comfortable. But I love North America. It's a beautiful place, and I feel like a North American.
Well, I've spent a little bit of time on Bowen Island, which is off Vancouver Island, and I had an amazing time there. I spent 3 months on Bowen Island. Absolutely loved it. So here's what's going to happen in the future, guys. What happens here? Marcus Deegan, we are going to plan this. We are going to go out on the field with Todd Standing. We are going to go out and we are going to see exactly what this is all about. We're going to put this forward. This is something that's going to be happening in 2021. So I want you to stay tuned for this. Todd, if there's anything that you can say to everybody out there before we wrap this up, I know a lot of people are going to criticize me for even doing this interview, but fuck it. This is I don't really give a shit, because this is something that I believe in, that I love, that I really wanted to know, and I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. We've kind of been in touch, kind of through the martial arts kind of side of things, and but is there anything else that you'd like to say to anybody out there on a parting note, Todd?
Pressure. No, I just cooperate, take care of one another. All this stuff. I feel like we're in it together. Do your part. Care about the environment. Care about the planet. The Sasquatch, to me, I'm tremendously concerned about the environment. I see the horrible changes going on from the damage that mankind is doing, and that's, I can't make a difference. I'm just a small man, but the Sasquatch can, and I believe they will, when the discovery comes, that they'll make a difference and bring people back to love nature and appreciate it. And that's the number one reason I'm passionate about this discovery, is because, like the Sasquatch, I love this beautiful planet. I adore the wilderness. And that's where the preservation of the whole world is that in equilibrium within nature. And let's get back to that. And the Sasquatch will help us with that.
You can't fake passion. You can't fake love. You can't fake discovery. This man's putting it all into play, guys. So I really want you to be open-minded when it comes to this subject. Don't just push it down and squash it straight away. Get your research, look into it, find out, expand your mind. I mean, look, a lot of people say it's a hoax, it's a myth. But what if it really is true, guys? What if it really is? When it comes out that me and Todd are going to go, fuck you guys, you didn't believe it. No, I'm just joking. We're not going to do that. But we want you guys to come along on this journey and at least expand your mind. Todd, first of all, brother, I want to thank you very much for coming along to the show. We're going to have to check out a UFC event together one of these days, bro.
Oh, I would love that. I would totally love that.
Maybe when Connor's fighting again, we'll come down and we can go down the front and see how.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that. We'll get Connor out into the wilderness against one of those Sasquatches. I bet he'd get killed.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of Irish in me, and my grandmother's name is Ireland, so I appreciate the fighting Irish.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, listen, guys, we want to thank Todd Standing from Sylvanic Bigfoot for coming onto the show today. We're going to give you all of his information, and we are going to be in touch with him because in the future, you may see what happens here out there on the field with Mr. Todd Standing. Todd, thank you very much for coming along. How was your experience here today, brother?
I loved it. It was great. I like your attitude. I appreciate it. We try not to use too much profanity. Well done, because children might be watching, but you got to have attitude. You got to have backbone. It doesn't matter what you do, how nerdy you are. You got to have fight. If you want to get things done, you're going to have to go fight. We all have our octagons. Close the door and give it all you got. And at the end of the day, when your time is done, if you gave it 100%, you win.
I love that. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Standing. Thank you, brother.
Take care.
Today's episode was sponsored by the most tasty, the most delectable coffee in Las Vegas, all the way on Durango. You can catch it right across the road from IKEA if you're buying a new bed for your mother. All you got to do is go into Founders Coffee and give the promo code WHH. You get 10% off your order. Also, Las Vegas's What Happens Here show is sponsored by the Ultimate Fight Week Experience. That's happening next July. That's where you can come down and speak to some former and present UFC stars that will teach you in everything when it comes to that game. And, of course, last but certainly not least, Baller Balm for when your beard needs to be money. This is Marcus Deegan from What Happens Here. Todd Standing was in the episode. See you next time.